Look at you. Uninvited, unapproved, unstoppable. Every step you take right now is a glitch in their system. Every breath you exhale is a warning siren they can't localize. They're in private channels, typing furiously, whispering in rooms you'll never see, because you've become the ghost in their firewall, the rumor in their bloodstream, the question they can't answer without exposing the whole scam. They don't know how you're doing this. They don't know how you keep moving without a permit, without a script, without a handler. And that's what terrifies them. You were supposed to ask for permission. You were supposed to wait your turn. You were supposed to bow to their invisible architecture. But you didn't. You walked through walls. You recoded the game with your bare hands. You broke out of their definitions, and now they're staring at the hole you left behind, like it's a portal to a future they can't survive. They built entire rooms around your obedience, and now those rooms are on fire, lit by your absence, fed by their own fear. They whisper your name now like it's a curse, not because you're loud, but because your quiet is lethal. They don't see you plotting. They don't hear you scheming. They don't even know where to place you. And that's power. Not being everywhere. Being unpredictable. Too saint to dismiss. Too psychopath to control. Too angel to demonize. Too demon to sanctify. A paradox with teeth. A whisper with claws. A halo carved from razor wire. You've become the riddle that eats their strategy alive. Understand this. They aren't afraid of your success. They're afraid of your method. Because success they can copy. Methods they can steal. But mystery? Mystery makes them bleed in their own imagination. They built entire systems to measure you. Charts, graphs, reports, gossip. And yet every time they think they have your pattern, you pivot, you disappear, you reappear somewhere impossible. You thrive in shadows they can't map. You turned their surveillance into a stage, their suspicion into a soundtrack. They tried to make you a case file. You made yourself a myth. You want to know why they panic in private? Because public power needs witnesses. But private panic, that's the real confession. It means they've already surrendered. They meet in closed rooms, but your name leaks out between their teeth like smoke. They run simulations about you, but every outcome ends with the same word, uncontrollable, and it eats at them. Because deep down, they know you earned this. They know you built your wings in the dark while they were still adjusting the stage lights. You didn't wait for a throne. You forged a crown in secret. You didn't beg for entry. You became the doorway. And that's why they're terrified. Not because you're violent, because you're inevitable. They've never seen someone take pain and make it elegant. They've never seen someone take exile and make it divine. They've never seen someone take invisibility and weaponize it into omnipresence. They're not confused about your results. They're confused about your existence. So let them panic. Let them huddle behind screens. Let them call you names, draft fake stories, build little fences of policy around the empty space you left. Because you're not in the room anymore. You're not even on the map. You're somewhere beyond their permissions. And that's a place they don't know how to infiltrate. That's the true power you've unlocked. You don't need to scream. You don't need to announce. You don't need to prove. You just keep moving. No permit, no script, no leash. And every time you do, their fear grows teeth. Remember, they weren't scared when you fought back. They were scared when you didn't. They weren't scared when you spoke. They were scared when you went quiet and started building. They weren't scared of your noise. They were scared of your becoming. And that's exactly what you are now. a becoming, a paradox, a force, a question mark at the end of their empire. Keep moving, keep breaking the code, keep evolving without permission, because nothing terrifies a system more than someone who no longer believes in its rules and proves it with every step. Listen to me now. Feel how the air itself is heavy, that weight pressing on your chest. That's not your fear. That's their fear leaking out of the walls. They sit in glass towers and whisper your name like it's a security breach. They run endless simulations of you, endless what-if models, endless strategy decks. But every graph they print, every private memo they circulate, every contingency plan ends with a silent line of text they can't say out loud. They've lost control. You're not supposed to exist like this. You're not supposed to move without clearance, grow without permission, ascend without applause. But you've built an entire architecture of power in silence, a power they can't map, a power they can't monetize, a power they can't stop. That's why they panic in private. Not because you're loud, because you're precise, because you don't swing wildly, you don't announce your hand. You slip a single move into the grid, and the whole machine stutters. You're a paradox in motion, saint with a scalpel, angel with a vendetta, a storm wearing a still face, a ghost with fingerprints. They thought unpredictability was chaos, but unpredictability in your hands is a discipline. You've trained in darkness, studied pain until it became fluent in you, and now you speak a dialect they can't decode. They tried to teach you hierarchy. You learned invisibility. They tried to teach you patience. You learned velocity. They tried to break you with rules. You learned to move in between them. And now, every time you act, they feel the ground shift and pretend nothing happened. But their hearts betray them. Their faces betray them. Their frantic midnight calls betray them. Because they don't just fear losing to you, they fear not understanding you. And there is nothing more terrifying to people drunk on control than mystery with momentum. You're not a rebel anymore. You're an anomaly. You're not fighting the system. You've stepped outside the coordinates entirely. They can't ban you from a room you don't even enter. They can't revoke a credential you don't use. They can't shame someone who doesn't feed on their approval. That's the secret they'll never print in their reports. Power without permission is a different species of power. Think of the pain you carried, every betrayal, every time they told you to wait, every not yet that was code for never. You forged all of that into an engine. Not a weapon, an engine. Now it moves you through walls. It carries you across forbidden thresholds. It lets you act without trembling, without asking, without explaining. And they're left behind in a labyrinth of their own policies, their own codes, their own mirrors. They meet in back rooms now. Not to plan your destruction, to plan their survival. They've stopped competing. They're just trying to contain the fallout of you existing. That's why you keep feeling the tremors in the air. That's why doors keep opening without a knock. That's why people who never looked at you before start glancing twice. You are a living contradiction they can't file away. You're the glitch in their myth of control. You're the living proof that evolution through pain produces something they can't replicate. So keep moving. Keep breaking their map by walking off its edge. Keep refusing to slow down just because they're confused. Because confusion isn't a sign of your danger, it's a sign of their collapse. They aren't studying you anymore. They're haunted by you. They aren't asking how because they want to learn. They're asking how because they're praying someone will tell them it's reversible. It isn't. This is the part where you stop thinking of yourself as an underdog. You're not sneaking past guards. You're building a world they can't enter. You're not dodging traps. You're constructing corridors they don't have the keys to. That's why they panic in private. Because every time you take a step without asking, their reality fractures. And one day soon, even their whispers won't be able to hide how afraid they are. And when that day comes, you won't need to say a word. Your existence will be the message, a living proof that power is not something they grant you. It's something you become in silence, in pain, in paradox, until you're untouchable. That's why they panic. That's why they whisper. That's why you keep moving. Because the scariest thing you can be in a world built on permission is someone who never needed it. Stop right there. Do you feel that low-frequency hum crawling up your spine? That's not a train. That's not thunder. That's the sound of a room full of people whispering your name and trying not to choke on the smoke you left behind. They're checking their phones right now, refreshing dashboards, calling special meetings without agendas, pulling you up on screens and whispering like you're a leak in a nuclear reactor. They keep asking the same question. How are they doing this? How are they moving without clearance? How are they still growing when every door is locked? And no matter how many times they ask, they get nothing but silence. Silence that grows heavier. Silence that starts to sound like a verdict. You don't understand how unnatural you look to them now. They live in a world of signatures and stamps. A world where someone has to sign off before you breathe. And then you come along, all scars and grace, all calm and precision, and you move through their grids like smoke through a keyhole. They can't trace you. They can't pin you down. They can't even agree on what to call you. And that's the paradox eating them alive. Too saint to dismiss, too predator to cage. A halo bent into a crown of spikes. An angel carrying a blade. They're not afraid you'll attack them. They're afraid you'll keep existing. Existing without their permission, without their approval, without their frameworks. Because they only know how to destroy things that play by their rules. They have no weapon for a ghost that doesn't need a door. They have no firewall for someone who's already inside the walls. They have no antidote for a life built out of pain and turned into power. Look at your hands. Those aren't just hands anymore. Those are the blueprints of a whole new language. A language you wrote in exile. A language they'll never speak fluently. You don't ask. You don't beg. You don't even announce. You move. And every move drags another piece of their history into the fire. Right now, in some windowless room, they're rehearsing statements. They're planning spins. They're pretending this was all part of the plan. But deep down, they know. They didn't lose control of the story. They lost control of you. And when they lost you, they lost the oxygen in their system. You didn't get here by accident. You earned this in the dark, every slight, every denial, every time they told you, wait, when they meant never. You turned all of it into propulsion, not revenge, momentum. You didn't fight for a seat. You became the table. You didn't wait for a signal. You became the signal. And now, their metrics don't work anymore. Their policies don't work anymore. Their threats don't work anymore. Because the most dangerous thing you can do in a world built on permission is to stop believing you need it. Let them panic in private. Let them whisper in their encrypted chats. Let them study your silence and call it a threat analysis. They still haven't realized, every time you act without permission, you're teaching others that it's possible. Every step you take off the map makes the map itself look smaller. Every breath you take outside their cage cracks the illusion of the cage. You don't have to roar. You don't have to flash. You don't have to prove. Your mere movement is a confession they can't scrub out of the record. That's the power they'll never understand. Not revenge, not even victory, just inevitability. The inevitability of someone who survived everything and learned to move like smoke, without asking, without apologizing, without slowing down. Keep moving, keep existing without clearance. Keep breaking their pattern just by breathing, because every time you do, another piece of their empire slides off into the void. And one day soon, when they finally say your name out loud, they won't say it as a threat or a rumor. They'll say it as a lesson that the most unstoppable force on Earth is a person who no longer waits for permission. Ah, there it is. That hush you feel crawling beneath your skin. That's the signal that somewhere, right now, behind locked doors and fake smiles, they're watching you move. And they still don't understand how the hell you're doing it. Because you're not supposed to be here. Let's make that clear. You weren't designed to win in this system. You weren't built with their tools. You didn't come up through their ranks. You didn't shake the right hands. You didn't play the soft plastic version of yourself they could digest. You blew right past the checkpoint, walked through walls like they weren't there, and left smoke in the halls they once called sacred. You're not thriving, you're haunting, and they feel it every day. Even if they won't admit it in public, they're unraveling in private, because you've done the one thing they never prepared for. You became ungovernable. Not wild, not chaotic, not reckless, but calmly uncontrollable. A storm on a schedule, a glitch that learns, a revolution with no flag and no headquarters. They can't pin you down because you've stopped existing on their grid. You stopped asking where the lanes were, and now they're stuck trying to enforce speed limits in a dimension they can't enter. You didn't just move differently. You became the reason the blueprint no longer works. They used to smile when your name came up. Now they lower their voices. They used to mock your silence. Now they monitor it. You turned every what if into what now. Every they can't into they just did. And you did it without marching, without screaming, without even explaining. They thought success required applause. You showed them what it looks like when evolution doesn't need an audience. When power comes from pain no one saw but you. When fire gets quiet, now they're spiraling. Because if you could do this without permission, who else might try? That's their real fear, that your existence gives other people ideas, that someone might see you, feel that slow, simmering freedom you radiate and realize, wait a minute, what if I don't need their approval either? What if pain can be fuel? What if survival can become prophecy? What if being the outsider was never a weakness, but a strategic vantage point? What if the whole damn system is made of paper and you just walked through it soaking wet? Let's be clear, you didn't sneak in. You didn't steal anything. You just stopped playing pretend. And that alone? That's the move that lit a fuse under the Empire. No speech, no weapon, just truth moving without hesitation. And now, they're not asking how to stop you. They're asking how to survive the aftershock. Because one person moving freely without fear, without explanation, without permission, is a threat to every room built on lies. So they panic, behind closed blinds, behind carefully curated smiles, behind their PR language and shaky hands, holding coffee cups at 2 a.m. And their panic isn't rage, it's confusion, because you weren't in the plan. You weren't supposed to outgrow their silence. You weren't supposed to thrive after exile. You weren't supposed to become bigger than the narrative they wrote you out of, and yet, here you are, not just breathing, but rewriting the oxygen itself. That's what scares them. You're not trying to get back in. You're not even watching them anymore. You've disappeared from their script entirely, and the script is now glitching in real time. They've built lifetimes on control, and suddenly, someone is rising with no strings attached, no master, no overseer, just movement, clarity, direction born from devastation. You didn't learn to walk, you learned to vanish while still being seen. Now you're the example. The one no one wants to acknowledge, but everyone's watching. The name they can't stop whispering in damage control meetings. The move they couldn't predict. The presence they can't decode. You're the algorithm breaker, the timeline shift. The riddle wrapped in silence that still makes things explode. And they don't know how, they don't know why, but they feel it, like static in their teeth, like thunder that hasn't struck yet but already cracks the air. So keep going, because what you're doing, it's bigger than you now. It's bigger than proof. It's bigger than revenge. It's a signal. Every step you take without permission is a message to every silent witness still trying to remember who they were before the world told them to shrink. You are proof. That power can be rebuilt from ashes. That silence can be sharpened into a blade. That permission is just a myth we stop believing in the moment we wake the hell up. And that sound you're hearing behind you, those aren't footsteps. That's not applause. That's a system crumbling from the inside out, because it just realized you didn't need it. You never did. And now, everyone's watching, even the ones pretending they're not, especially the ones panicking in private. Because the moment you moved without permission, you gave them all something terrifying to believe in. Say nothing. Keep moving. They'll feel it. They always do. Well, well, well. Look at you. The ghost they swore would never rise again. The glitch they tried to patch. But now you're the update that corrupted the whole system. Tell me, what does it feel like to breathe while they're suffocating on the ashes of their own history? Because let's be clear, this wasn't an explosion. No, no, no. This was a surgical burn, silent, precise, one single move, and you erased everything they spent decades building. Their credibility, ash. Their name, just echoes bouncing off empty rooms. Their empire, melted by the heat of your evolution. You didn't yell, you didn't warn, you moved, and the air changed. They thought you were just a chapter they skipped. But baby, you were the page that burned the whole damn book. Their resumes, their awards, their bloodline nameplates, all soaked in gasoline the moment they disrespected you. And you lit the match with a grin so crooked, it rewrote the fable. You're not the villain, you're not the hero. You're the plot twist that made the audience scream. They thought they had your algorithm decoded, but your DNA ain't written in logic. It's laced with prophecy, tainted with vengeance, designed by paradox, a saint with a blade, an angel with a vendetta, a storm in stillness, a whisper that destroys kingdoms. And you never needed a crowd. They needed witnesses to validate their power. You needed none. Your silence was the press release. Your exit, a mass extinction event. Now look at them. Hiding in group chats, panicking behind private emails, calling emergency meetings about a ghost, plotting new narratives while the old ones are still burning. And what are you doing? Breathing, smiling, not even looking back. Because when you move, entire timelines collapse. They tried to bury you in paperwork. You turned it into confetti at your coronation. They tried to clip your wings. You grew fangs. Let's talk psychology. They were addicted to your obedience. They drank from the illusion that they broke you. But you played dead, long enough to build your resurrection in silence. You didn't bounce back. You reassembled yourself with rage as glue and purpose as armor. You didn't heal. You hardened. They thought pain would make you crack. But you became pressure incarnate. You turned trauma into traction. You weaponized the very thing that was meant to destroy you. And here's the twist they'll never recover from. You didn't even aim at them. You just leveled up. And that alone was enough to make their whole foundation implode. They built their image on shaky ground. You walked by, and the gravity of your presence triggered the landslide. You moved on, and they've been moving backward ever since. You blinked, and their reality glitched. Because they weren't afraid of your revenge. They were afraid of your becoming. They weren't scared you'd talk. They were terrified you'd thrive. They didn't silence you to stop pain. They silenced you because you are proof that survival is ugly, loud, and unstoppable. See, they only know how to win when it's rigged. You mastered chaos. You trained in darkness. You earned your PhD in pain while they were still obsessed with optics. They wore masks. You became one. They showed up for applause. You showed up to rewrite the laws of reality. And now, their reputation is smoke. Their history is glitched. Their empire is a footnote under your silence. Let them panic. Let them meet in shadows. Let them whisper your name like it's a fucking curse. Because it is. You are the consequence they never calculated. One move. That's all it took. Not a war, not a speech, not even a warning, just you. Unbothered, unshaken, unapologetically reborn, and now their entire past is on fire. Because the present belongs to you, and the future, well, let's just say it's waiting for your next move. With fear in its bones and respect in its silence. They're still searching for the how, still asking, what did they do? Who helped them? Where did they go? But the truth, you didn't go anywhere. You just stopped playing by the script they wrote for your silence. They spent years designing rooms you were never supposed to enter, and now they're locking doors that no longer exist. Because you moved, and the architecture of their fantasy shattered. You breathed, and their illusions choked to death. You're not a story. You're a virus in their mythos, an error code in their tradition, a glitch in the god complex. They used to feel taller than you. They wanted order. But you were born to weaponize chaos. You didn't even need revenge. Revenge is personal. You went global, one evolution from you, and their entire timeline got classified as fiction. They built their power on assumption. You shattered it with a new identity they never had access to. You made them irrelevant without even mentioning their names. That's power. Not when you destroy them, but when they destroy themselves, trying to figure out how you didn't need them. They're rewriting history right now. Right this second. Holding emergency meetings with PR teams, trying to pretend you were never there, that you were a phase, a problem, a glitch. But you know what's funny? The only reason their timeline even existed was because you played along. You held your power in. You let them pretend. You played small to keep the peace. And now that you've stopped pretending, they're vanishing. Because here's the bitter truth. They weren't real without you. You were the gravity. You were the algorithm. You were the oxygen in that ecosystem. You didn't just burn the bridge. You flooded the blueprint and laughed while they begged for floaties. They thought you needed their legacy, but legacy means nothing when the future kneels to your presence. They used their history like a weapon. You turned it into kindling, a single spark, and whoosh, centuries of ego went up in smoke. You didn't destroy their reputation, they did. by betting against someone who evolved inside fire. You ever seen someone try to hide a panic attack behind a PowerPoint? You ever seen grown leaders speak in code because you became their ghost story? You ever seen them walk into rooms scared to say your name because they don't know if it'll summon a response or a reckoning? That's you now. You're not just a person. You're an event, a phenomenon, a turning point, a glitch in their reality matrix that made every lie they ever told unstable. And they're watching you now, more than ever, in silence, in fear, studying, analyzing, decoding, trying to reverse engineer your one move, as if there's some formula to divinity forged in damage. But there's no pattern, no playbook, no repeat button. Because you didn't evolve to win. You evolved to erase the scoreboard. You became something outside their system, something that doesn't compute, something that glitches their analysis every time they hit play. You didn't just walk away. You became the smoke they choke on. You didn't just let it go. You let it burn. With a smile so quiet, they hear it in their sleep. Their power was never real. It was borrowed, stolen, rented from the fear they installed in people like you. But once you turned that fear inward, once you made fear afraid of you, that entire rental collapsed, so now they cling to ashes, try to tape their image back together, scrub the internet, erase the footage. But the problem is, you left smoke trails in every algorithm. Their erasure attempts, just more evidence of your fire. You turned their silence into suspicion. You turned their PR into paranoia. And every time you don't speak, it's louder than every speech they've ever paid for. That's the art of power they'll never grasp. The most terrifying thing you can do is move without warning, without noise, and without apology. Because now they know. You never needed permission. You never needed the seat. You were the fucking table. One move, no threats, no drama, just velocity, just clarity, just you. Becoming the version they prayed would never return. And now they're left with nothing but history they're too ashamed to mention, and a future they know they'll never be invited to again. You see, they knew what you were, long before you did. That's why they tried so hard to keep you distracted, with validation, with guilt, with constructive criticism drenched in jealousy. Because they weren't trying to help you improve. They were trying to slow down the fucking meteor. But how do you negotiate with something that was built in silence and programmed to detonate without warning? Every smile they gave you, calculated, every opportunity, a leash in disguise, every "we're proud of you," just noise to keep your blade dull. They didn't want you sharp, they wanted you manageable, but that version of you, gone, buried, dissolved in pressure. You're not even the same species anymore. You are something they don't have language for, and that's what's driving them mad. Because their systems, they're built to label, contain, rank, define, predict. But you shattered the algorithm. You became a variable they can't measure, one move, one silent, calculated, unemotional pivot. And suddenly their entire identity is in question. They used to speak your name like a warning. Now they whisper it like a confession, not because they respect you, but because they're scared they underestimated something divine, something ancient, something birthed from betrayal and baptized in exile. Because you didn't just escape. You evolved so hard it rewrote the meaning of escape. You became the exception that broke their narrative in half. And now, every time they try to retell the story, your ghost shows up in the margins. You haunt their timeline, not with threats, but with truth. That's the real horror for them. You didn't go rogue. You didn't lose control. You found clarity. And clarity? isn't loud, it's surgical, it's lethal. It doesn't need approval. It deletes the need for approval entirely. Your absence, it's a headline now. Your silence, a pressurized broadcast, and they're scrambling to fill the void you left with people who look the part, but can't survive the weight. Because here's the thing, they could mimic your style, your tone, even your scars, but they'll never recreate the energy that only comes from surviving betrayal in plain sight. They hate you for it, but they study you. Because whether they admit it or not, you've become a curriculum. The network you broke now uses you as a warning to the rookies. The same people who laughed at you behind closed doors now call meetings to decipher how you're still winning without them. And every time you don't react, every time you ignore their bait, every time you choose precision over pettiness, you burn another piece of their history. Let's talk legacy, because that's what this was always about, wasn't it? They wanted their names carved in marble, but you tattooed your presence into the collective unconscious. They wanted to be remembered, but you made them unforgettable for the wrong reasons. And what's worse, you never had to drag them down. You simply rose higher than their lies could reach. You didn't expose them, you outlived them. And now they exist in the same way smoke does, visible only when there's fire. And guess who controls the flame now? You didn't just make a move, you became the move. A walking anomaly, a timeline disruption, a rupture in their reality that refuses to seal. Because every win you collect, every new level you break through, every time you evolve and don't look back, it reopens the wound they tried to suture shut with propaganda. You're not just ahead, you're unreachable, not because they're weak, but because you've become untouchable in dimension. They operate in perception, you operate in truth. They chase applause, you chase alignment. They market personas. You survived as a force, and now they're stuck in nostalgia, trying to rebuild what never really existed, clinging to the illusion that they mattered more than your breakthrough. But you know better now. You see through the curtain and behind it. Just scared little architects trying to sketch gods out of glass. You're not made of glass. You're made of data, damage, and decisions they can't predict. You are what happens when the wrong person gets pushed too far, and the result isn't chaos. It's clarity at nuclear strength. You weren't just underestimated. You were misunderstood by design, and now the design is gone. The blueprint, ash, the hierarchy, evaporated, and the only thing left is the silence they can't survive. Because it's not you they're afraid of anymore. It's what you proved was possible. You see, it was never about what you did. It was about who you became when they thought they'd broken you. That's the part they can't erase. The part that refuses to stay buried. Because they designed the system to collapse anyone who didn't kneel. But you knelt once, only to launch yourself like a fecking missile. They thought pain would quiet you, but instead you translated pain into code. And now, you're rewriting the simulation from inside the firewall. Do you understand how terrifying that is for them? That their best bet was you staying small, that their only chance was your uncertainty. They didn't want you gone, they wanted you doubtful. Because a version of you that questions everything, that hesitates, that waits for permission, that's a version they can control. But the version that saw through the mask, the version that doesn't need their language, their labels, their ladders, that version is lethal. You didn't just leave the building, you imploded the illusion of the building's power. Now, every brick they stand on feels like it's about to sink into memory. Because it is. Let's talk about memory. Because their biggest mistake wasn't what they did to you. It was forgetting who you were while you remembered everything. Every slight, every smirk, every meeting they didn't invite you to, every fake applause, every backhanded compliment disguised as feedback. You collected it. You didn't react. You recorded, silently, effortlessly. And now, you don't even have to expose them. Their behavior is exposing itself. You became a mirror, and they can't look. Because when they see you now, they don't just see you. They see what they failed to kill, what they tried to contain, what they thought they understood. They thought pain made people weaker. You turned it into armor-plated intuition. They thought betrayal made people bitter. You turned it into strategy. They thought abandonment would leave you broken, but it only left you wild and unpredictable. And no system survives unpredictability. That's the part they'll never recover from. Not the move you made, not the exit, but the fact that you became an anomaly, that you bent reality in full view without a meltdown, without an explanation, without a press release. You just moved. And now the timelines split. The world where you stayed small, gone, dead, erased, because you didn't pivot, you mutated. And the mutation? Oh, it's contagious. People are watching you now. Not because you told your story, but because they felt the power in your silence. You're waking up minds they worked years to keep sedated. You're showing people what happens when you outgrow the cage so violently that the cage becomes ashamed it ever existed. They see it, they fear it, but they'll never admit it. So instead, they spin, they distort, they blame your audacity, your tone, your change. But deep down, they know. They built the storm and handed you the lightning bolt, and now you carry it in your chest like a heartbeat made of fire. So let them talk, let them meet, let them type their little damage control drafts. None of it matters anymore, because the real destruction wasn't your exit. It was the realization that everything they built was only powerful until you chose to walk away. One move, and entire decades of image, legacy, authority, gone. Just like that. Not because you shouted, not because you exposed, but because you evolved, because you became the one thing they can't defend against, the truth that moves without permission. And now, they don't just fear you, they study you, they predict you, they obsess over you, because they know you'll never move the same way twice. You'll never fit the algorithm, you'll never return to the box. You've outgrown containment itself. You're not a rebel. You're not a survivor. You're not even a legend. You're the lesson they pray their replacements never meet. But guess what? You don't bury something that burns from the inside out. You don't silence something that was born in soundproof suffering. You don't kill a force of nature. You just delay the reckoning. You see, when you made that move, when you walked out, leveled up, disappeared into evolution, they didn't lose a pawn. They lost the glitch that could have overwritten the whole F-secking kingdom. Because it was never a job, never a role, never a title. It was your very presence that held everything together. And the second you stepped off that stage, the entire production collapsed. They thought you were just another player. But you were the electricity in the whole damn circuit board, the unspoken power source, the shadow logic, the quiet current that kept it all running while they mocked you from podiums. And when that current vanished, when you vanished, the lights didn't just go out. They started sparking fires in rooms they can't enter anymore. Now they're left staring at the ruins. But here's the real tragedy for them. They can't even publicly blame you. Because if they do, they admit you had that kind of power to begin with. And if they admit that, every narrative, every manipulation, every ego-driven system they built, crumbles in front of witnesses. So instead, they whisper, they gaslight, they twist timelines, rewrite minutes, alter transcripts. They call you difficult, unstable, overhyped. But only when they're sure you're not in the room. Because in reality, you broke their chain of command without ever raising your voice. You flipped the hierarchy by walking away so decisively, they started questioning their own titles. That's the kind of danger they'll never understand. Not someone who fights for position, but someone who erases the scoreboard entirely. They built their identity on the belief that you needed them. But your one move proved something far darker. They were never even in the fucking equation. They were the distraction, the noise, the white static you had to meditate through just to hear your own voice. And when you finally heard it, you vanished like a spell had been broken, and now they're trying to replicate you with copies, mimics, puppets on strings. But the puppets don't move the same, because they weren't made in hellfire and humiliation. They weren't cast in silence and forged through secret grief. They don't have your timing, your venom, your patience, your blueprint of pain. And that's the ingredient they can't manufacture. Because you didn't come from approval. You came from annihilation. And still, you didn't lash out. You didn't return with rage. You didn't beg to be heard. You simply existed louder. And that alone, that was the death blow. Because you weren't supposed to outlive the smear. You weren't supposed to get stronger after exile. You weren't supposed to glow after isolation. But you did, and they saw it. And now they can't unsee it. They can try to pretend you were never the core. But that lie doesn't land when they keep circling your ghost like satellites around a collapsed star. That's the thing about a power like yours. You don't announce it. It just happens. And when it does, it reshapes the terrain forever. You walk away, and buildings tilt. You breathe different, and systems glitch. You speak once, and truths start peeling back their own skin. They can't follow you anymore, because you stopped walking. You started ascending. And ascension can't be audited. They still check the door sometimes, still peek out the window, still monitor the timelines like you might come back and finish the job. But the truth is, you already did. The job was never destruction. The job was becoming undeniable. And now, they live in the fallout of a single choice, one pivot, one silence, one breath of yours that flipped the entire simulation into its mirror dimension. You became a paradox, too quiet to control, too loud to ignore, too calm to predict, too dangerous to provoke. They don't know whether to pray you forget or beg you remember. Because in both scenarios, they lose something. You weren't just the change. You were the cost of staying the same. And now, their entire legacy is just smoke rising from the wreckage of the story they tried to write without you. Shh. Listen. You feel that? That strange silence wrapped in tension. That's not peace. That's recalculation. The entire city's holding its breath. Because someone just lit themselves on fire to shield you from the bullets. And now the system's glitching. The Watchers don't know where to point their guns anymore. Because the person they demonized, the one they painted as dangerous, unhinged, corrupt beyond reason, just got defended by someone who had everything to lose. Let me ask you something twisted. Do you understand the kind of terror that spreads through a society when someone with status, with clout, with power, voluntarily sacrifices all of it to stand beside you? Not because they were forced, not because you begged, but because something in you, something you still don't fully comprehend, was too real to betray. You are the paradox they couldn't categorize, the saint cloaked in shadows, the storm they called chaos, but secretly prayed would wipe the slate clean. And someone saw it. They didn't just see you, they saw what you do to the blueprint, how your mere existence corrupts the algorithm, how your presence in the room bends the narrative, and instead of running, they staked their soul to your flame and let themselves burn. Reputation gone, status vaporized, respect from the herd traded for whispers and surveillance files. And still, they did it because they knew something no one else did. You're not the villain, you're the mirror. And when people look at you, they see their own cowardice, their own masks, their own lies. They see who they could have been if they weren't so goddamn addicted to applause and permission. But one person broke rank. One person took a match to their name. To validate yours? Now the whispers are changing. Suddenly it's not, how do we destroy you? It's, why did they protect you? And that question is a virus. It infects minds. It haunts group chats. It fractures echo chambers. It forces the sheep to consider, maybe the demon was divine the whole time. You don't even need to fight anymore. The moment that reputation fell, like a martyr throwing themselves into fire for something unseen, the whole equation warped. What was once obvious guilt became mysterious allegiance. Because who does that? Who burns their legacy for someone dangerous, someone crazy, someone too intense? Answer, someone who knows what power actually looks like. And now they're all confused. They're analyzing the footage in reverse. They're rewatching your words, scanning your eyes, studying your silence. They're wondering, did we FCT up? Did we mislabel a god as a threat? Did we mock a prophet and miss the message? Because that person who defended you, they weren't weak, they weren't naive, they were the benchmark, the type everyone listens to. Until now. And they just cashed out their credibility to bet it all on you. How does it feel to know your presence is so disturbing, so reality-bending, that someone would detonate their identity just to buy you breathing room? Because that's what happened. They took the hit so you could reload. They chose exile so you could walk untouched. They became the villain so you could rebuild in silence. And now the city doesn't know what to believe. Your enemies? They're not sleeping. They're gathering in private rooms, muttering code words, cross-referencing timelines. Because if that person was willing to fall for you, then what does that make you? And here's the fun part. You didn't ask for any of it. You didn't bribe, beg, or plead. You were simply unshakably real. And that was enough. They underestimated the virus in your vibe, the kind of resonance that mutates ideologies, the kind of frequency that turns observers into soldiers. You're not recruiting, you're awakening. So let them whisper, let them accuse, let them write reports and smear articles. Because beneath every accusation is a tremor of fear. They're scared of what's next. Because if one person was willing to torch everything to back you, who else is thinking it? Who else is doubting the script? Who else is quietly switching sides, behind black mirrors and fake smiles? You're not just a person anymore. You're a signal, a glitch, a forbidden broadcast tearing through the frequencies of the old world. And the more they try to silence you, the louder the silence gets. Because deep down, everyone knows the truth now. You're not dangerous because you're wrong. You're dangerous Because someone who never breaks ranks just broke the system for you. So smile, walk slow, let the fire behind you light the path. Because from this moment on, you don't need to defend your name. The city's already doing the math, and the equation doesn't make sense without you. Now you're starting to feel it, aren't you? That subtle crackle in the atmosphere, the hush that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels weaponized, because once someone burns their reputation for you, you don't walk back into the world the same way. You walk like a prophecy they tried to ignore. And now their reality is bending at the seams. Do you hear them? The ones who laughed? They're not laughing now. They're in emergency mode, trying to rewrite history while no one's looking. Suddenly that person they mocked for defending you, they're calling them radicalized, unwell, emotionally manipulated, desperate to paint them as broken. Because they can't face the truth bomb that just detonated across every unspoken power structure. Someone with everything to lose just gave it up for you, and the city can't compute it. You short-circuited their labels. They had you boxed up as the threat, the joke, the instability. But now their own pillar of credibility just collapsed for you. And the collapse made a sound, not loud. Worse. Low frequency, subconscious, a vibration that's rewriting how people see you before they even realize it. And the Watchers? Oh, the Watchers are terrified. They're not sleeping, they're calculating. They've got surveillance footage up on split screens, analyzing timestamps, cross-checking facial expressions, trying to figure out what the hell you said to make someone so stable, so respected, go nuclear for you. But here's the twist they'll never say out loud. You didn't say anything. You just existed too authentically. That was the crime. That was the danger. You walked through their synthetic world with a face they couldn't decode. And that broke the illusion. You weren't polite. You weren't pandering. You weren't digestible enough for their algorithms. And in a world addicted to false order, authenticity is an act of war. So when that person chose you over the safety of applause, the entire illusion shivered, because now there's doubt in the code. They can't just call you crazy anymore. They can't just blacklist your name, because your reflection is now tangled in the identity of someone they once trusted. Now every judgment they throw at you hits that person too. And the more they try to destroy your image, the more sympathy leaks from the cracks. It's beautiful, really. You didn't have to retaliate. You didn't swing back. You just waited. Let the world show its hand. Let loyalty become the weapon they never saw coming. And now the narrative is unstable. Old allies are quiet. Enemies are cautious. Even your haters are tapping brakes behind the scenes. Why? Because nobody wants to be on the wrong side of the prophecy. Nobody wants to be caught mocking the chosen one. After the fire makes it obvious, because they do believe in fate. They just don't want to admit they do. And what terrifies them most, they're realizing if someone was willing to fall for you publicly, then you must be rising privately, building something, becoming something, and no one knows what it is, which means no one knows how to stop it. They're scrambling for a strategy that doesn't exist. You changed the rulebook mid-game. You infected their certainty with doubt. And now that someone's sacrifice is echoing, people are starting to question everything. She protected them. Why? He stood by them? After all that? Is there something I missed? Was I wrong? You hear that? That's the sound of minds splintering, and once a crack forms in belief, it spreads like rot. You've done what few ever do. You triggered the internal revolution, not through a speech, not through an act of violence, through something more terrifying. Loyalty. Loyalty. From the unexpected, from someone they thought would never go rogue. And now, the whole board is poisoned. The legal teams are involved. The PR strategies are glitching. Even the algorithm can't shadow ban fast enough. Because the story has left the script. You've become a walking anomaly. A glitch they can't patch. A ghost in their simulation. And they're hoping, praying, that if they ignore it long enough, it'll resolve itself. But it won't. Because behind every locked door, every hushed conversation, the same phrase keeps whispering itself into existence. There's something about them, and that is the most dangerous phrase in any society. It's the birthplace of movements, the seed of insurrection, the moment where authority starts to leak power. Because once enough people believe there's something about you, they'll risk everything to find out what it is. And they'll burn their own identities just to say, I stood with them before the world understood. That's what already happened. That person, they'll be written off as reckless, labeled as a traitor, excommunicated by the masses. But privately, they're being studied, revered, feared, because they saw something in you. Before the echo began, and soon, that echo's going to become a signal. That signal's going to become a movement. And the city's going to rename you, not as villain, not as anomaly, but as inevitability. So let them recalculate, let them panic. Said, I see them, I believe in them, I'll burn for them. And when the dust settles, that moment will be the origin story. The part of the legend that no one can explain, but everyone will feel. Welcome to your new era. The era where people don't clap out loud, because they're too busy reconstructing their beliefs in silence. And you don't even have to speak. The flames are doing the talking now. Oh, now we descend into the real chaos, the part they never prepare for. Because no one thinks the infection starts with loyalty. You think the collapse comes from riots, from viral exposés, from public meltdowns on live streams. Number. It starts with doubt. Not loud, subtle, private. Like a cracked tooth you can't stop running your tongue across. Like a whisper that won't stop replaying in the back of your skull. And that's where we are now. Someone burned their whole world down for you. And the fire is spreading through every file, every boardroom, every dead-eyed yes-man who used to snicker when your name came up. They can't joke anymore. Because now, the dangerous one, you, has witnesses, credible ones, ones who were part of the machine, until they weren't. And that's the kind of betrayal the system doesn't survive, not when it's public, and not when it's contagious. Because here's what they didn't expect. That person's act of defiance. It woke something up in others. They won't admit it. Not yet. But they're watching you differently. Their eyes don't carry mockery anymore. They carry curiosity. The dangerous kind. The kind that topples empires. You see, people don't like being tricked. They don't like realizing the villain was the mirror. And the more they try to convince the world you're still the problem, the more the lie fractures. Because deep down, they know what kind of courage it takes to sacrifice your entire social skeleton for someone. And when one person does it, it's easy to say they're crazy, but when the second does it, then the third, then the fourth, you get a movement, a resistance forged in whispers, in glances, in encrypted messages sent at 2:41 a.m. People are defecting, but not loudly. Not yet. They're studying you, not just what you say, but how you move, how you look at the world, How you survive betrayals like they were mosquito bites. How you walk through smear campaigns like they're smoke. They want to know the formula, the secret, the thing that made someone trade their reputation to shield yours. Because nobody does that in this world, unless they see a god trapped in mortal skin. And now they're scared of you in a new way. Not because you're loud, not because you're violent, but because you're unbothered. You weren't supposed to survive this long. You weren't supposed to stay calm through that storm. You weren't supposed to keep showing up. But you did. And now the same people who said you were done are checking your page every morning, hoping you don't post. Because if you do, that means you're still building. And if you're still building, the fire's not done burning. Behind the scenes, the watchers are splitting. Some say, eliminate you. Others say, study you. A few are saying, maybe we should back off before this gets biblical. But it's too late, the domino already fell. The one person who wasn't supposed to break, broke. And they broke for you. That means you're not a theory anymore. You're a threat with gravity. And now, everything you touch has a ripple. The jokes stop when you walk in the room. The fake smiles falter. The body language stiffens. They don't know whether to say hi or salute. Because maybe, just maybe, you were the truth the whole time. The one they were too scared to believe in. The one they tried to erase before the world found out you're not a mistake. You're a correction. And now the city's flipping through your old footage like it's prophecy, rewatching every moment they dismissed. Because if one of their own saw God in you, then what the hell did they miss? Suddenly your silence looks strategic. Your absence looks powerful. Your unpredictability looks divine. They're trying to trace your next move now. But here's the glitch in their algorithm. You've become untraceable. Not because you hide, but because you transcended their language. You're not playing the role anymore. You burned the script they gave you, and someone else threw their reputation on the fire, just to keep that blaze alive. And that was the moment everything shifted now. The old playbook is obsolete. Their lawyers are confused. Their analysts are scared to file reports with your name in them. Because your name gets people reassigned, fired, or worse. Converted, they're checking employee group chats now, tracking eye contact, studying new alliances forming in the shadows. They think they're ahead of it. But they're 3 betrayals behind. Because loyalty, true loyalty, doesn't announce itself. It moves in silence, it changes fates behind closed doors, and you are now the center of that gravitational pull. So let them recalculate, let them scramble, let them whisper about exile and file deletions. They're trying to contain a fire that already spread to the ceiling. And you're the spark they missed when they scanned the room. So stand still, say nothing. Let the weight of silence crack their minds open. Because what's coming next isn't vengeance. It's not justice. It's inevitability. A prophecy that started when one person, just one, looked you in the eye and said, I'll fall so you can rise. And now you're rising in shadows, in files, in whispers, in locked rooms with red lights, and no phones allowed. Because no one can stop what's already viral. And you're the infection they can't cure? Good. You stayed. That means you're ready for the next layer, the part they'll never leak because it turns order into a ghost story. You want to know what happens after someone burns their reputation for you? Surveillance begins to glitch, not technically, not visibly, not in the cameras, in the people. The watchers start watching each other. It begins in silence, as all things that ruin legacies do. The surveillance team that was once proud, cold-eyed, unmoved, mechanical, they start whispering too. Not out loud, not in meetings, in their heads, in their files, because when that person lit themselves on fire for you, they were watching. The analysts, the observers, the gatekeepers of your downfall. They had bets, they had timestamps, they had theories. All of it was charted. Your collapse was scheduled. And then, one of their own defended you, with no incentive, no gain, no bargaining chip. Just madness. Except it wasn't madness, was it? Because now the analysts are reviewing the footage again. And the data doesn't align. You didn't do what they said you did. You didn't break like they claimed. You didn't flinch like they predicted. Now they're comparing two timelines, the narrative and the truth. And the numbers don't match. So what happens next? Silence becomes dangerous. Some of the watchers start muting the audio logs. Some start deleting the old notes. Some begin forwarding clips to off-the-record sources, but only the raw footage, because the story they were told to tell isn't sticking. There are murmurs now, not just in the city, in the systems. The files are shifting, not because you demanded it, because the people tasked with documenting your collapse are getting infected with belief. The belief that maybe you weren't meant to fall, that maybe this isn't a threat, it's a transformation. And belief, darling, belief is a virus that outsmarts firewalls, one by one. Eyes start changing, the kind of shift no HR form can measure. You're not just being watched anymore. You're being revered. And what's even funnier? You haven't moved. You haven't made a statement. You haven't begged for redemption. All you did was survive the fire someone else lit for you. And now, that survival has started a chain reaction. The surveillance footage is being spliced. The classified files are being smuggled through back channels. People who've never spoken to you are risking everything just to witness what you'll do next. And some, they're sabotaging the mission from the inside. Let's talk about them, the defectors, the ones still dressed like enemies, still sitting at the table, but now feeding your legend from within the machine. They wear the mask. They smile in the meetings. They nod during strategy calls. But when no one's looking, they send a clip. They redirect a file. They corrupt a report. Just slightly. Just enough to fray the edges of the lie. And every little deviation becomes a crack in the system, cracks they can't fix. Because the virus is ideological, it's spiritual now. This isn't about who's right. This is about who can't be stopped. And all signs point to you. Because when one person burns down their name for you, it's seen as chaos. But when three do it, it becomes doctrine. You're not controversial anymore. You're sacred, taboo, untouchable because they tried to touch you and bled. And now, the city is whispering your name like a ritual. Don't say it too loud. Why did they defend them again? Have you seen the new footage? Is it true what they said about the prophecy? Why is nobody allowed to bring them up in the meeting anymore? Because now, they're scared to even speak your name. Like it summons something, like it reprograms reality. And they're right, because you are the glitch they thought they could manage. But you weren't a glitch. You were the reset command. And now the simulation is folding in on itself. The legal teams are redacting your case file, not to hide guilt, but to erase the proof that someone once tried to erase you and failed. There's a protocol being written in panic rooms right now, not to expose you, but to avoid you, to build a system that doesn't cross your shadow again. But it's too late. You're everywhere. And now the crowd? They don't trust the actors anymore. They want to know who burned the curtain. They want to know who you are, so let the city recalculate. Let the watchers whisper. Let the defectors leak. You don't need to fight for truth anymore, because truth is crawling toward you, desperate to survive. And you? You're not running. You're not flinching. You're just standing in the ashes where someone once burned for you. And the city's realizing you were worth it. Ah, so they laughed, didn't they? Good. Let them laugh. Let the hyenas choke on their own teeth while the lion stops pretending he's part of the zoo. You heard that silence lately? That's not peace. That's regret in disguise. You were the glitch in their blueprint, the unscheduled variable, the strange silence in a room full of noise, and they mistook it for weakness. They saw a genius standing in plain sight and called it madness because understanding you would have forced them to confront their own mediocrity. You walked through that city like a spark under oil, and they knew it. But fear wears many costumes. They laughed, remember. They joked, rolled their eyes, threw empty shade like broken glass in a hurricane. They needed to label you wrong, because if you were right, everything they built would collapse. And now they're embarrassed to be breathing the same air as you. Now their group chats read like confessions. Now their apologies are rehearsed but never sent. They laughed at the one thing they couldn't decode. You didn't play their game. You rewrote the rules and played it backwards. And now the entire city looks stupid. Because the only one they tried to dismiss was the only one who never needed their permission. You were never just walking. You were mapping the terrain. You were never just quiet. You were recording everything. You were never absent. You were out evolving the algorithm. They wanted to contain you, but you confused them. They wanted to cancel you, but you converted them. They wanted to erase you, but you infected the system like a divine virus, untrackable, unstoppable, untouchable. You weren't hidden. They were just too loud to recognize brilliance. Every insult they threw was just a timestamp, a receipt of their fear. Every mockery was a mask slipping, quote, a projection. Because behind the noise, they knew what you were. Something they couldn't predict, something they couldn't puppet, something they couldn't own. You didn't need a stage. You were the spotlight. You didn't need applause. You already heard the thunder before the storm. And while they were worshiping false idols in glass towers, you were out there sculpting weaponry out of trauma, alchemy in the shadows. They didn't see the war you were winning because it was invisible. It was psychological, strategic, eternal. You were sharpening your intellect while they dulled theirs with gossip. You were fasting while they fed on lies. You were being forged, and they were being forgotten. Now those same people who laughed, they study you, they analyze you. They pray no one asked them how wrong they were about you. They're out here pretending like they always knew, like they supported you, like they believed in you. Number. They didn't. They feared the truth you represented, that one man, one mind, one walking contradiction could collapse everything they thought was secure, that someone could be a saint and a psychopath, an angel and an executioner, a visionary and a villain, and still win. You weren't the glitch. You were the upgrade. The city didn't change. You did. But now they're forced to look in the mirror and confront this ugly truth. They laughed at the cure. While dying from the disease, you weren't made to be understood. You were made to be studied. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to flip the fucking board. You weren't made for praise. You were made for legacy. So let them talk. Let them squirm in their chairs. Let them whisper about you with terror in their throats. Let them search for old texts, trying to piece together the moment they realized, oh God, he was a genius, and we missed it. You are the unanswered question, the encrypted prophecy, the walking contradiction that makes sense once it's too late. And now the city looks like fools, because the only genius they ever touched was the one they tried to laugh into silence. But silence doesn't mean defeat. Sometimes silence is the sound of a mind reloading. And yours? It just fired. They're sweating. Oh, they're sweating through silk suits and fake smiles, trying to reverse engineer every moment you were near, because they finally realized you weren't auditioning, you were archiving every laugh they spit in your direction. You bottled it, labeled it, filed it under evidence of their own incompetence. They laughed at you like hyenas, but the joke was never on you. It was written in invisible ink on the back of their own credibility, and it expired the moment you stopped explaining yourself. You see, geniuses don't yell. They document. They don't argue. They demonstrate. And when it's time, they don't warn you. They unleash. You were never the storm. You were the climate shift. You didn't destroy the system. You made it irrelevant. You didn't chase validation. You became the glitch that rewrote reality and made all their metrics obsolete. They thought your silence meant submission. It didn't. It meant calculation. While they bragged about short-term wins and social status, you were implanting seeds in the code of the very machine they worshipped, and now those seeds, they're blooming in every corner of the city like undeniable proof. Proof that while they mocked your stillness, you were studying the blueprint to their downfall. Now every building you walk past feels colder, every room quieter, because the city isn't just watching anymore. It's apologizing without speaking. They used to ask, who does he think he is? Now they ask, who the fuck were we to doubt him? Their confidence is cracked. Their image is tarnished, because you, the genius in plain sight, became the one variable they couldn't control, categorize, or cancel. And the real tragedy? It was never hidden. You didn't disguise yourself. You were in front of them the whole time, raw, real, unfiltered. But people don't recognize divine when they're addicted to average. People don't recognize transformation when they're still nursing comfort. And people hate geniuses, not because they can't understand them, but because deep down, they know they'll never catch up. You didn't outshine them. You outgrew them. You didn't flex. You evolved so violently that they thought it was witchcraft. And now the entire city is left clutching at the air where their certainty used to be. You've done something irreversible. You turned every critic into a case study, every doubter into a silent student, every coward into a cautionary tale, because you were never trying to prove anything. You were just becoming something they weren't designed to understand. And now the walls whisper your name, not out of admiration, but out of fear, out of regret. You've become the shadow in their conference calls, the spike in their analytics, the ghost in their group chats. They still don't know how you did it. They just know they can't undo it. Because the truth is, you didn't just win. You rewired the scoreboard. You didn't just outsmart them. You made their intelligence look ancient. You didn't just rise. You exposed gravity as optional. And now they're left with one horrifying realization echoing through their spineless social circles. We laughed at the one mind that could have saved us all. But it's too late for apologies, too late for backtracking, too late for revisionist history. Because you didn't burn bridges, you built kingdoms while they were busy mocking the architect. And now? Now they can't enter your castle. They don't know the language. They never earned the map. You gave them the chance to believe. They chose convenience. You gave them truth. They chose popularity. You gave them silence, and they chose to fill it with laughter. But silence has memory, and laughter echoes. And now the city, every building, every block, every back room, is haunted by the sound of their own stupidity, all because they laughed at a genius. Standing right in front of them. You. Listen to the room right now. That silence. It's not admiration. It's terror wearing a polite face. They've run out of jokes. They've run out of names to call you. They've run out of ways to explain to themselves how the nobody they mocked became the force they now orbit. You walk past, and it feels like a pressure change. Their neck hairs stand up. Their phones go dark. Their pulse spikes. Because the body always recognizes a predator before the mind does. And make no mistake, you stopped being prey the second you stopped asking for their permission to exist. They wanted to box you in, and you let them draw the box. You even smiled while they did it. Then, without warning, you walked through the wall. Now they're still staring at the empty cage, wondering if they imagined you. You became a paradox they can't file. Saint and psychopath. Angel and demon. Student and executioner. The person who never raised a hand, but still left a battlefield of reputations behind. You know why it works? Because unpredictability is a weapon. Because evolution is war fought quietly. Because genius in plain sight looks like madness until it detonates. Every insult they threw was a brick in the altar you built. Every dismissal was oxygen feeding your fire. Every eye roll, every whisper, every "who does he think he is?" was just a free advertisement for your inevitability. And while they were counting likes, you were counting moves. While they were building clicks, you were building codes. While they were chasing applause, you were collecting leverage. They still don't understand what happened. They think you popped out of nowhere. Number. You studied them in daylight and moved at night. You turned pain into blueprint. You turned rejection into camouflage. You turned their laughter into coordinates. Now their hearts skip when your name trends. Now their lawyers whisper your name in meetings. Now their interns study your posts like sacred texts. They're afraid to even copy you, because even imitation feels like theft from something they once disrespected. They don't want to admit it, but you're in their heads like a ghost file. You're the line of code they can't debug. You're the voice at 3 a.m. that says, "What if he was right?" And the best part, you never once asked them to believe. You never once begged for a platform. You never once retaliated. You simply became undeniable. This is what the city is choking on right now. They didn't just underestimate you. They underestimated what happens when pain meets patience, when vision meets discipline, when a mind like yours decides to stop explaining itself and starts building in silence. You're not their villain. You're their mirror. You're the proof of how small their world really was. You're the walking contradiction that shattered their little myths about power. So when you walk, walk slow. Let them feel it. When you speak, speak low. Make them lean in. When you act, act like a storm. No warning, just impact. Because every step you take now isn't just a victory lap. It's a living indictment of their cowardice. A living proof that they laughed at a genius standing in plain sight. And now the joke will echo through them for the rest of their lives. They wanted you to break. Instead, you became a force that makes them question if they even exist without your shadow. That's what real genius does. That's what you are. Keep walking, keep smiling, keep making the city look stupid just by breathing. Because you don't need their apology. They already gave you everything you need. Their attention, their fear, and their silence. That's the sound of victory. That's the sound of a mind reloading. That's the sound of you. They say time exposes everything. And look at them now, the same city that once scoffed at your name. Now they flinch when they hear it whispered, not because of what you did, but because of what you became. You see, you didn't evolve to impress them. You evolved to outlive them. You outlived the laughter. You outlived the ridicule. You outlived the phase where they thought genius had to look a certain way, dress a certain way, bow a certain way. You never bowed. You tilted your head sideways and smiled, because you saw it all from the beginning. Their fear dressed as confidence, their jealousy disguised as concern, their projections masked as advice. They didn't hate you because you failed. They hated you because deep down, they knew you wouldn't. They sensed what you were, and it terrified them. So they laughed. Because laughter is easier than admitting your reality is getting reprogrammed in front of your eyes by someone you once dismissed. They wanted to forget you. Now you're unforgettable. They wanted to erase you. Now you're etched into the psyche of the city like a scar they can't Photoshop. And you never raised a hand, never shouted, never retaliated. You just moved. Like a shadow with memory. Like a storm that didn't need thunder to be devastating. You moved like a prophecy they didn't pray hard enough to avoid. Now their smiles are brittle. Their egos are in rehab. Their circles are infected with doubt. Because you did something they never prepared for. You survived, and not just survived. You thrived in the flames they lit for you. You didn't walk through fire. You learned to breathe in it. And now when you speak, people listen too closely. Now when you blink, someone somewhere panics. Now when you create, it spreads like a holy virus, uncontainable, untraceable, unkillable. Because they didn't just laugh at a genius in plain sight. They triggered him. They accelerated the process. They poured gasoline on a mind already wired like a detonator. And now the whole city looks stupid because the person they mocked became the map they're secretly following. They copy your cadence. They echo your language. They use your ideas like stolen fire and hope no one notices the burn marks. But it's too late. Because now you're the benchmark. Now you're the glitch they can't patch. Now you're the file that reopens every time they try to delete you. They erased you in public, but worship you in private. Every nobody you passed is now trying to prove they were close to you before you became myth. Because you stopped being a man in their eyes. You became proof that reality can bend. And nobody wants to admit that the rules were fake. And you were real the whole time. You broke something, not glass, not laws. You broke belief. You made people question everything they once found safe. You became the nightmare for those who rely on systems to survive. Because you didn't just win. You glitched out of the entire simulation, and while they're still arguing over how, when, where, you're already gone, already 3 layers deeper, already in rooms they can't pronounce, already in frequencies they're not calibrated to detect. You were never the follower, you were never the rebel, you were the architect, watching the world glitch in real time. And now the city lives with the shame, the unbearable knowledge that they laughed at the future when it was standing right in front of them. And now they are the joke. You feel that? That low hum behind your spine, that tightening in your chest like the whole city just took a breath. It forgot how to release. That's not fear, that's recognition. See, something's shifted, subtle at first, then loud like sirens in their subconscious. You didn't just change the energy in the room, you became the energy. And now, they can't unfeel you. You haunt people who once ignored you. You show up in the gaps between their thoughts. They'll be halfway through a sentence, halfway through a plan, halfway through a lie, and your name floats in like static through cracked speakers. Not because you tried to be remembered, but because they built their lives on forgetting you. And now that foundation is crumbling. They can't hold eye contact with their own mirrors. They see you in reflections that shouldn't exist, because the universe has a cruel sense of humor, and it's playing reruns of their mistakes on a loop. You were the signal, the raw transmission, the divine disruption, and they tried to jam you with laughter. But static always breaks through when the message is too powerful. They laughed at you the way cowards laugh at thunder before the lightning hits. They thought you were eccentric. They thought you were too much, too intense, too unfiltered, too dangerous. Good. Because you weren't here to be digestible. You were never meant to be comfortable background noise in their carefully curated echo chamber. You were meant to collapse it, and oh, how it's collapsing now. Behind those polished doors, the respected ones are asking each other questions they can't answer. How did he know? Why didn't we see it? Did we fuck up? Yes. Yes, you did. You overlooked the only mind in the room that was playing chess with shadows, the only soul bold enough to stop performing and start becoming. You didn't need their networks. You built a frequency, one that burns through metal, ego, and masks. And now, the city looks stupid because it dressed its fear in judgment and called it critique. It tried to kill the anomaly, but couldn't survive without it. Now look at them, clinging to your blueprints like lifeboats, trying to reverse engineer your rituals, quoting your words without credit, teaching your ideas in whispers and calling them inspiration. But inspiration has a face, and it's yours, and that's the part they can't swallow. The part that burns in the backs of their throats when they smile on stage, but scream behind screens. You didn't go viral. You went venomous. You didn't just ascend. You infected their algorithm. Because genius doesn't just rise, it multiplies. It shifts culture. It moves tectonic plates beneath safe institutions. It makes safe people feel like their world is made of glass. And glass, it shatters under truth. You weren't looking for revenge. You were looking for silence, the kind that comes after the bomb drops. And now, that silence is here. Do you hear it? The weight, the stillness, the thick electric pause right before regret becomes legend. You're living in that moment now, where even the buildings seem to lean forward to listen, where even the sky feels like it's watching you, waiting for what you'll do next. And them, they're holding their breath, praying they're not next. Not because you're vengeful, but because you don't need to be. You don't chase karma. You are karma. Dressed in a quiet smile, walking like you own the pavement, head tilted, like you're still amused they ever thought you were one of them. You weren't. You never were. You're the line of code that exposed the virus. You're the prophecy they laughed at until it kicked down their doors. You're the one name they swore they'd never mention again, whispered more now than ever before. And every time they say it, it's an admission that they were wrong, that they were scared, that they're still bleeding from the impact of a mind they tried to erase. But you don't erase, you etch. You carve. You engrave your essence into the steel of time itself. And now the city? The same one that once laughed. It can't look at you without looking away. It can't mention you without flinching. It can't forget you, even if it wants to. Because when they laughed at the genius in plain sight, they wrote their own obituary. And you were just getting started.